Did I finally figure out how to put a poll up without it getting all wonky on everybody? Man, I think I did. I think I did. Let's see. Hopefully. We got to edit this out post-production. We got to edit this out in post-production. We're waiting. We're testing. We're testing. We're waiting. We're waiting. We're testing. We're testing. All right. There we go. On my test screen, it is operational. And the poll is reacting in active time. So, all right, cool. So we're a little bit behind on the audio. I need to change the latency, I think is what I need to do. So, all right, guys. Hey, welcome back to the Hat and Beard Show. Good morning. Hope everyone's having a wonderful start to their Monday morning here in mid-Michigan. It is a little bit cooler than most of us may have wanted. I got it reading 27 degrees. At least it's sunny out as we steamroll and just ride this train right into the springtime. It is a few weeks out yet still from the draft, guys, and we are through the first massive week of free agent signings. Hey, Mr. Detroit City. Let's go Lions. Let's go, Mr. Detroit City. Welcome back, brother. Happy to have you in the chat. I'm going to try and engage when I can, where I can, but there's a bit of a delay, and we're still trying to work out the kinks on the chat from where you guys are seeing and where I'm recording. Also, I don't want to get too bogged down today. Today will be a little bit more of a condensed episode. We will be covering some NFL news. Obviously, you've seen the headlines, and we're not going to bury the lead. And then we're going to talk a little bit of Lions mock draft post week one of free agency that we just finished up, as I was saying. Week one of free agency just wrapped up here. And it is a little bit of... hang on here. Yeah, I wondered why the light was on. Okay, there we go. It was a little underwhelming for most people. Obviously, DJ Reed being the big signing, top of the free agent class as far as defensive backs are concerned. We also went out and got Roy Lopez. We talked about Roy Lopez, who I'm kind of a fan of, not necessarily hating that signing. And then also we did re-sign both Derek Barnes and Levi Onwuzurike. And then big departures we've seen... Carlton Davis signed a big deal in New England to help rebuild that organization there as Mike Vrabel is restructuring everything from the ground up and buying himself a defense to compete against the big threat in the NFC East, Josh Allen, who got that big mega deal. And then we also seen Kevin Zeitler, the 35-year-old all-pro, all-world guard who, if you look at his metrics, actually played at an incredibly high level last year. He graded out as I think overall the number 5 right guard in the NFL, and that's beating out some 130 some guys according to PFF at his position. He was the number 32 ranked pass blocking guard in the NFL and the number 5 ranked run blocking guard in the NFL. So a very talented player, will be missed. However, this opens the door for Christian Mahogany, who once he finally fixed everything that was going on off the field and was able to get back in the facility, really showcased in his limited action that he was worth the pick where we got him, considering he could have been an even higher talent. Similar to Mekhi Wingu, who unfortunately with now Roy Lopez in town and Levi Onwuzurike being re-signed, you're seeing him kind of get buried more in the depth chart, really get to scrap his way up. But, there's no reason why a more athletic version of a Mekhi Wingu, give it a year, shouldn't be able to play in spots more so than like a Roy Lopez, who is a more of a run defender, a big time nose tackle with a big wide ass. You guys know I like a big wide ass defensive tackle to sit right there in the one gap and eat up some blocks for my guys there. But what I would think this kind of signals to the Detroit Lions moving forward in the draft process is with the free agent signings that we did make. Now, I do think this free agent class is a lot weaker than some. I've seen people are a little disgruntled with the lack of splash that Brad Holmes and company have been making when you see some of the deals that have been made. But unfortunately, the deals that have been made at the positions they've been made at are not deals or positions that the Detroit Lions need to be making at this time. I think the moves that Brad Holmes has done has been in the best interest of both the pocketbook and the on-field product of the Detroit Lions. He is clearly setting himself up for success to go out and re-sign the Kirby Josephs, the Aiden Hutchinsons, the Jamos, the Jamirs, the Laportas, and the Branches, right? We got a lot of guys whose contracts are going to be coming up, and we're going to have to be shelling out some bucks to maintain this elite talent in-house, and fortunately, Brad Holmes seems to know that, and he seems to be setting himself up for success, going out and making pickups in spots where he needs. Last year we brought in DJ Reader. I actually thought DJ Reader was worth it. I think he played well when on the field. Unfortunately, availability is the best ability. I need you for all the games available there, DJ Reader. And then this year we did need to go and get a corner, right? And last year we needed some defensive back help. We traded for Carlton Davis. He then turned around and broke his jaw, and missed significant time, and then wasn't able to come to terms to stay in Detroit long term. So he walked, and what did Brad Holmes do? Instead of relying on the unknown of Enos Rakestraw Jr. or maybe Amik Robertson doesn't come back in the same capacity that he did after sustaining that busted ass arm of his. I mean, last time we seen Amik Robertson, his arm was in two separate pieces on the ground on Ford Field. And what we can now know is that Brad Holmes is looking for assurance. DJ Reed is a good defensive back. He's a really good corner. Still in the prime years of his career, and we didn't go out and overpay for him either. It was a nice, relatively team-friendly deal for a guy who it was mutually beneficial. We needed a solid corner to come in and play at the number one, compete with the up-and-coming rookie for the number one, as well as maintaining a team-friendly contract, and that's exactly what Brad Holmes was able to do with DJ Reed. So that all being said, there had been some splashes made in the free agent market. Last week, we've seen a lot of wide receivers. DK Metcalf got traded. Nook Hopkins signed in Baltimore. Trying to think. Josh Palmer signed in Buffalo. I'm trying to think of anything else really, but again, this free agent class isn't necessarily the strongest specifically at wide receiver. So heading into free agency, people were suspecting that Tee Higgins was going to be the top name, the top dog on the list. He is an emerging wide receiver one playing in an offense where he is the wide receiver two, right? Obviously, Jamar Chase, potential Hall of Fame talent, really electrifying play style. And Tee Higgins kind of was more the Batman to the Robin, and everyone was expecting him to probably go someplace else to be the guy. And no movement happened after the first week of free agency, so that kind of indicated to some that there was going to be a contract extension with Tee Higgins. But at the same time, the Bengals had to figure out how to also re-sign Jamar Chase. So what they did was said, we're just going to go get both guys. We're going to go re-sign both guys. So here from NFL.com, Bengals agree to terms with wide receivers Jamar Chase, Tee Higgins on 4-year contract extensions. And they're getting their bag. They're getting their bag. Cincinnati basically saying we're gonna go just outscore everybody. Fuck the defense. They're gonna be basically. They really liked what the Detroit Lions were able to do this last season, but instead of having to suffer through a porous defense due to injuries, they're just going to invest all of their money. They're going to allocate all of their attribute points in scoring. They don't care about the defense. They're still floating in this old world NFL where it's points, not seeing the probable trajectory of the NFL to not reverting or regressing, because that terminology puts a negative connotation on it, but a transition to a more of a grittier style football, a transition to the running game, defensive minded, not so many points, as the public opinion of the NFL continues to run down against the points, the refs interfering with the game, the softening of the game. I think fans are wanting to see what we've seen when I was a young child, I guess, in the early aughts. I'm 37 in a couple weeks. So in the early aughts, football had a different feel to it. It was a little bit more of a tough, gritty, grown man's game. And now it is a little bit more soft, but I think we're starting to see a little bit of a transition. So Guys, I know we kind of got a little off on a little bit of a tangent there. I appreciate you sticking with me. Before we get into it, though, can you just do me a favor? Why don't you walk on over to that like button, go ahead and poke that thumbs up for me. If you're new here, man, I appreciate you guys hanging out in the chat. If you would mind just, subscribing to the channel if you like what we do here. Feel free to engage in the chat. I'll try and engage when I can, where I can. If you're watching this post live stream, comment down below. Say what's up. We are always encouraging people to join the community here and hang out with us. We are on a freight train heading towards 700 subscribers. So we are just barreling down on it. I really appreciate all you guys and the support that we do here. And then finally, this is the unique thing about YouTube specifically, is when I ask you to share, you don't have to embarrass yourself on your social medias and tell everybody that you're a fan of the Hat and Beard Show. That's fine. You don't have to show it. But if you could, just click the share button on your mobile device, because statistically that's where most of you watch this. Just click share and just copy. Just copy the link and just save it to your clipboard. Delete it afterwards, but just copy that link down on the share. You don't have to share with anybody on socials. That's fine. But if you want to, that'd be great too. That could really help us grow exponentially. But the algorithm really likes to see the sharing, the engagement, the almost a verification of non-botted users, if you will. So I'd really appreciate that. It would help us grow tremendously, and we're really hoping aggressively if we could get up to 700 subscribers by the time of the draft. That would be the cat's pajamas, but ideally we're hoping to get to 1,000 subscribers by the kickoff of the 2025 NFL season. That would be absolutely awesome, you guys, and I couldn't do it without the support of all of you, so thank you so much. Let's get into what we all came here. Hooday, payday. Cincinnati's double dip is done. The Bengals have agreed to terms with wide receivers Jamar Chase and Tee Higgins on contract extensions. NFL Network insider Tom Pelissero reported on Sunday. And sidebar, Jamar Chase is in the same draft class as Penei Sewell. And could it be argued that that draft class is equally as good as what was it? Was Calvin Johnson's draft class the 06 draft class, where it was like Calvin Johnson, Adrian Peterson, these just Hall of Fame talent level guys, where it seemed like nearly every single pick was a eventual, all pro, future Hall of Famer. I'll smash the like button and share with us. Thank you, Mr. Detroit City. I really appreciate that, bud. Thank you so much for helping out and hanging out, dude. So that to be said, I think Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, that draft class is kind of in the same hemisphere as I believe the Calvin Johnson 06. Now, yeah, they had Jamarcus Russell, right? One of the biggest flops in the history of the NFL. But obviously one of the biggest learning curves for most people in the NFL. I think that people in the NFL really learned their lesson with Jamarcus Russell, which is why we've seen as much hype as there was around Malik Willis in his draft class, with some speculating him going as early as number 2 to the Detroit Lions. Whew, we would have missed out on Aiden Hutchinson. That kind of just like hurts me a little bit to think of us missing out on Aiden Hutchinson and going to someone like Malik Willis, who is, it's a suitable backup, but my God, talk about teams learning their lesson after Jamarcus Russell with the Malik Willis situation. At least that's my opinion. Back to the article. Chase's contract extension is a 4-year, $161 million, which makes him the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Is he worth it? Is Jamar Chase worth all that money? Is he worth it? Is it Jamar Chase or is it Joe Burrow, right? Which came first, the chicken or the egg? We obviously know that Joe Burrow commands the offense, but at the same time, Joe Burrow said, I want him, right? When it was time to draft Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow said, I want my college buddy, right? I want him. And look at how electrifying they've been since then. Statistically, they've just been lights out. Higgins, meanwhile, has agreed to a 4-year deal worth $115 million to keep the dynamic duo together. That is a huge differential. I mean, we're talking $45-46 million difference. And it's big on Tee Higgins as a man for him to step back and be able to accept that and take it on the chin and realize that it's maybe not all about the money. It's about the fit. It's about the situation that you're in. Because, once you get up over, in today's world, once you're over $100 million, hell, once you're over $50 million, you're talking generational wealth. $100 million, you're talking secure generational wealth. But then on top of that, you see your running partner here, your teammate at the same position as you, getting an additional half of what you already got on top of it. I mean, big on him. The mental fortitude of T. Higgins. That's pretty big on him, for him to be able to do something like that. But that is a lot of money being shelled out to two wide receivers. Like I said, it's roughly like $69 million a season against the salary cap. Super hilarious, super nice. You gotta love it. But man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Would I have done it? I'd rather invest some capital into some other positions. Trey Hendrickson has got to be just like a little sore, like a little butthurt, right? And you know what? Maybe this pretty much seals Trey Hendrickson's future. Maybe he is now 100% getting dealt. Maybe he's getting dealt to the Detroit Lions. Wouldn't that be awesome? Chase's mega deal was well earned and a long time coming, which is true. He has reached a Pro Bowl in each of his first 4 seasons and broke through for his first All-Pro selection during the 24 campaign. Yeah, he is. I'm not a Jamar Chase fan, but I can't hate on him. The numbers are there, right? Everything is there. He and the Bengals were in discussions for a long-term contract extension last preseason. That included Chase holding out for a portion of training camp to protect himself against injury. Can't blame him there. Availability is the best ability. Imagine if he'd gotten hurt. We're talking less than $100 million, potentially. Chase went on to capture the receiving triple crown with 127 receptions, 1,708 yards, and nearly, statistically, 1 touchdown per every 100 yards with 17 touchdowns. That's 100 yards and 1 touchdown a game. That is pretty. Can't ask much more for that, or more out of that, right? That's like back in the day when you'd have a running back that you could hang your hat on getting 100 yards rushing, right? That's good production, man. An explosion in production for an already prolific wide receiver that necessitated even more money to match his value. Yeah, you could say that Triple Crown added probably $25 million extra onto his contract. He's now set to stay a Bengal, prolonging a partnership with quarterback Joe Burrow that dates back to their college days at LSU. Still just 25, Chase already has 5,400 receiving yards, 46 touchdowns on 395 career receptions. Damn, that is some good numbers in 4 years. Wow, that is some serious yardage. That is some serious production out of Jamar Chase. I get it. He's worth the money. Holy shit, man. I didn't realize that he had put up nearly 5,500 yards in 4 years. Wow. Is Jamar Chase low-key slept on? Does he get outshined by his college alum partner, Justin Jefferson, right? Because he's more of an Amon-Ra build, but faster, leaner, right? Maybe a little bit longer in the arms, a little bit quicker on his cuts, but not quite as a physical specimen as a DK Metcalf, right? Like, is Jamar Chase slowly been slept on to the point, and now maybe some of the NFL is overreacting to his contract? I don't know. Higgins, who arrived in Cincinnati in 2020 with Burrow 1 year before Chase, has likewise endured a lengthy road to payday. He's coming off his fourth season out of 5 with 900-plus receiving yards, adding an added career-high 10 touchdown catches to bring his total to 4,500 yards, 34 touchdowns on 300. See, these aren't numbers to scoff at, right? These are actually really good numbers. 4,500 yards in 5 years, 34 touchdowns on 330 receptions. But just look at the whole season difference. We're talking 12 more touchdowns on 65 more catches and almost 1,000 more yards. That is some serious production. That's a whole season. That is a whole season of a big play, dynamic playmaker, right? His biggest impediment has always been injury troubles. We're talking about T. Higgins. Caused him to miss 5 games during 24, and likely contributed to Cincinnati twice placing the franchise tag on him. But now an extension has replaced the tag. Higgins is set to stay alongside Chase for the foreseeable future, one half of the NFL's best wide receiver duos. Yeah, they are. They're polish-wise, they are more electrifying. Maybe not more electrifying, but more polished than JMO and St. Brown, although I think JMO and St. Brown offer more explosiveness at the ceiling and more stability at the floor. Maybe. I don't know. But I do think Higgins is more polished than JMO, right? The development is sure to make Joe Burrow happy, as the QB has already reportedly expressed a desire to keep his offensive core together. Will other teams needing to defend the Chase Higgins tandem share in that joy? Not so much. There is one defense you're gonna have to contend with, and that is the old Pittsburgh Steelers. So, what do you guys think? What do you think about that? Go ahead and comment. See what you guys say down below. Comment down below. We'll try to allocate some time at the end of the show if I haven't read any of the comments as they're coming through. But again, just to let you guys touch base before we touch on this last article, it will be a condensed show tonight. Today I do have to go to work early as not only the chief building steward, but also the unit chair. We have some stuff to take care of. Nothing serious, but I do need to be there a little earlier. So we will not be doing a Better Man segment today. Normally, though, Mondays are set aside for a mock draft Monday. And again, because of time, we're not going to do an actual mock draft. But I did find this little article. And I'm starting to like more and more of what I see out of this A to Z Sports over here. So let's walk on over to A to Z Sports. We got a 7-round Detroit Lions mock draft after the first week NFL free agency. The plans have shifted for sure. For sure, they have definitely shifted. And I'm not going to say that I agree with the picks and that were made here. I'm not even going to say that I agree with what the A to Z guys did. On a broad strokes, yeah, I agree with it, and you'll see. But the placement, not too wild about it. So, in case you guys haven't already, go ahead and boop that like button for me. Share this video around, blah, blah, blah. We are kind of going a little bit faster than normal. I know. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I know today's a little bit more condensed. We're doing a little bit more of a Ben Shapiro-style show where I'm going to talk really, really fast and run the facts and figures out to you as quickly as I possibly can. Again, we're time restrained. So 7-round mock draft after the first week of NFL free agency from A to Z Sports. The first wave of NFL free agency. Oh, what is going on here? Why can't I select? There we go. The first wave of NFL free agency is over. The Detroit Lions got involved, not to the degree that many Lions fans had hoped they would. It's probably because they feel pretty good about their team. The rest of the sports world does too. I can't quite read these, but some guy on Twitter gave us a breakdown. Detroit Lions, NFL unit grade. All right. Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. We got one of the highest scores at running back. It's really hard to see. I'm not even going to try and break that down. I don't have my cheaters on. I can't read. And hey, just so y'all are aware, you youngins out there, if you're watching, get ready to wear cheaters after 35. It's hard to read, find, and print. Still, the Lions signings and the signings that the Lions did not make shifted plans for the 2025 draft. Here's how we see things going in our post-first wave free agency mock draft. That, real quick, I do want to say signings that were not made. Really disappointed we didn't get Mekhi Becton. Really, 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 really disappointed. Mostly because I was hoping that we would go, instead of drafting an interior offensive lineman, we would get a guy like Becton who's been kind of through it and is a mauler in the run game. Had a career transition from tackle to guard, flourished in Philadelphia. He went to the Los Angeles Superchargers, and good for him, but damn, that would have been a solid long-term solution for Kevin Zeitler. And then you start to ease Christian Mahogany into the role of replacing Graham Glasgow. Graham Glasgow still being under contract, but aging, taking a step back last year. Realize that it's his time to transition to the interior offensive line 1A substitute, meaning he fills in at both guards and is already capable of playing center in replacement of an injured Frank Ragnow. Missing out on Mekhi Becton really salts my nuts. Period, point blank. Because with re-signing Marcus Davenport, and now this is all speculation because you guys know that I am the first to say none of us are going to be able to figure out what Brad Holmes does. But with re-signing Marcus Davenport, letting Big Z go, but probably I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in-house or some variation of that style of players in-house. Letting Zeitler go, not going after a guard, bringing in a defensive tackle in free agency. The common sense layman attitude would be we're going to go interior offensive line, going to draft a guard, right? And you guys know me. I was hoping to go draft. Brad Holmes, though, knows more than everybody else, right? Knows more than me. I'm not saying that sarcastically, right? But, and as it continues to shake down, if Mike Green isn't there, and the James Pierce Jr. sweepstakes schemes, God, I cannot. I really wish some mocks would start to narrow him down as to where he's going to go, so I can stop sitting here saying I hope if James Pierce Jr. is there, if Mike Green is there. We need to get through some more mock drafts because it's all indicators to me would say that the Lions are probably going to go interior offensive line in the early rounds of the draft. But I would like to see us trade back. So missing out on Mekhi Becton. Yeah, you guys know I was a little high on Mekhi Becton last week, but that's neither here nor there. At this point, Brad Holmes, look at that cheesy Brad Holmes. He knows something we don't know. Still, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for the Lions to pick at 28 unless the perfect player falls to them. It's kind of what I was indicating at. At this point, I could see a trade up before I see them stay at 28. What makes the most sense is the Lions trade down and get more extra picks in this case. The Saints called, and the deal we worked out. All right, so in this mock draft, they ended up wheeling and dealing with the New Orleans Saints, who are going to be dancing partners for some people, for some teams in the foreseeable future. They are in salary cap hell. They have been kicking that can down the road since Drew Brees was in town, right? Hell, they've been kicking that can down the road since Marquise Colston was in town. They've been kicking that can down the road since Joe Horn was in. They have been kicking that can down the road since Archie Manning was the. All right, so I think everybody agrees with this, that we are going to trade up. If Brad Holmes sees a guy and he wants that guy and he's going to pull the trigger, Brad Holmes can wheel and deal. He can wheel and deal. We have seen it every single year. Brad Holmes can wheel and deal. And if we don't pull the trigger and go up and get our guy, and the guy doesn't fall 2 picks ahead of us and we pull the trigger like we did Terry Arnold last year, you expect to see us trade back. I don't like trading back all the way to the 40th pick. That is what, the 9th pick in the second round? 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. So yeah, there'd be 8, the 8th pick in the second round. I would like to see trading that first with, like, say, New England for the, what are they, 34, 36? Somewhere around there. 40, I feel like you're going to miss out. Like, what I'm targeting here is that if you trade out of the first round, you slide back to the second round, you're obviously expecting, and I know how this sounds because I've been dick riding this guy this whole offseason, but obviously, Jack Sawyer's going to fall, right? But here, let's get into it. Here, the Lions went ahead and traded with the Saints, and we got the 40th pick and the 71st pick in exchange for the 28th pick and the 244th pick, all right? So we're trading, what is that, a 6th rounder, getting a 4th rounder in exchange for a second. Okay, it's a 3rd round pick. I got you, it's a 3rd round pick. The Lions now have 2 seconds and 2 thirds. Let's jump into the picks. Considering the consistency and the regularity in which Brad Holmes has hit on 1st round draft picks and the hit or miss on 3rd rounders. Come on, man. But they got us taking Princely Uman Milian. Uman Mialian. Prince. So they got us taking this dude Princely out of Ole Miss and addressing the edge position. To be fair, I don't know much about him. I've been too high on Mike Green and Action Jack Sawyer. All right, Janelle, I just trust Brad Holmes because his brain works in crazy ways. Brad Holmes' mind works in mysterious ways. Fun fact about Brad Holmes, he originally, before getting into the NFL, Brad Holmes, appreciate your chat, Brad Holmes was a manager for, like, Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And he got sick and tired of it and decided he wanted to work in the NFL, so he got an internship working for the Rams. And then over 20 years, Brad Holmes worked and scrapped and clawed his way up to being the director of scouting for the LA Rams. He's the guy who found Cooper Kupp, right? And he was able to parlay that within the span of 20 years. Brad Holmes went from being like a manager at a Hertz rental car or an Enterprise rental car or whatever the rental car company was to the general manager, one of 32 people that are the general manager of a multi-billion-dollar industry in overseeing the development and production, the continued success, the now continued success, but the rebuilding of a failed franchise into a successful business, and that is the general manager of the Detroit Lions. And good on Brad Holmes, right? But he does know more than all of us. Back to the news here. You got me off on a tangent there. I tend to be a bit of a Brad Holmes stan. I've mocked him to the Lions for a few times this season. If he keeps falling, I'm going to keep taking him. He's one of those guys that I feel like your team should be higher on in the draft, and you might find out that they will be when the time comes to pick. 55 pressures, 11 sacks. It's just too good to overlook at Ole Miss. That's not bad. That's not bad. The 60th pick, so this would be our regular first pick in the second round. Marcus Mabau, offensive line out of Purdue. Now that Zeitler is gone, it looks like the Lions could go all in on Christian Mahogany in his spot, and we should. Christian Mahogany's a nasty son-bitch. Woo-wee, he is a nasty moment. There are still questions on whether with Graham Glasgow on the other side. Mabau presents a guy who has success at both right guard and right tackle. The Lions can move him to right guard spot, kick Mahogany over to the left, take over for Glasgow. Then you can move Mabau to the right tackle if you ever need to. I actually got a little giddy making this pick in the simulator. No, I mean, it's a very versatile player. The Lions like to get those, we're not going to say gadget players, but those Swiss Army knife style guys because it is a top-down addressment. Obviously, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, everybody's in unison here. And that's why we get the coaching staff that we get, because we like to supply our coaches with a toolbox full of every tool you could ever need for the job at hand. You need a run game, we got the run game. You need to go deep, we can go deep. You need to go short intermediate, you can go short intermediate. You need to be Aaron Glenn of last year and blitz like crazy. Well, by God, we can be Aaron Glenn of last year and blitz like crazy, right? 71st pick, Chris Paul. Also going back to Ole Miss. Here's my guy. He says he's at the top of my list for Detroit. I know the Lions have a lot of linebackers already. We shouldn't go after another linebacker unless we're really not. Unless Anzalone's already said I got maybe 2 years left and then I want to retire. But that hasn't stopped them from taking a few. That includes Paul having a formal meeting at the Combine and meeting at the Shrine Bowl too. This is your guy. This is your future guy in the Anzalone spot right here, and you can take over as early as 26 after Anzalone's contract runs out at the end of the season. Yes, I get what you're saying. What Alex Anzalone means to this team until I think the Lions are going to play and roll with Alex Anzalone until Alex Anzalone says he's done playing. Even if his role gets reduced over the years, I think Alex Anzalone will continue to play ball until Alex Anzalone's done playing ball. I think that's about the long and short of it. So do you want to spend a pick now to help develop? Possibly. Do we already have that guy in-house with Malcolm Rodriguez, right? Or does Derek Barnes, right? Somewhere around there, right? Something like that. I like the player. I don't like the pick. 102, Jonas Spanker, Jonas Sanker, not Spanker. Jonas Sanker, safety out of Virginia. Now that Melifanu is left for Miami on a 1-year, $4 million prove-it deal, which will not work out for them, the Lions are going to need some safety depth in his place. Lawrence Strickland and Maurice Norris can be something, but that might be a ways off. Sanker is someone who can come in and be a part of that rotation immediately. He's also someone the Lions have already met with too. And then so if he's a baller, right? Then it's just like, hey ho, continue to get those inexpensive rookies who play at a high level. I mean, if you think about it, the last 2 years we've been rolling our two starting safeties more or less have been playing on rookie scale contracts and playing at all pro levels. Hi-yo, Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. Now, Kirby Joseph's going to get himself a big old payday. He's going to get himself a bag, and justifiably so. He's the best safety in the game in my eyes, and, well, he leads the NFL in interceptions coming into the league. But getting Sanker, I'm gonna end up, if we draft this guy, he's gonna be the Detroit Lion. I'm gonna call him Spanker. I'm gonna call him Jonas Spanker nonstop. He's gonna be out there spanking cats. I do like this. A little bit of insurance on a discount, especially playing. If the guy can ball, the guy can ball. He's already met with us too. That's a good thing. 130, Pat Bryant, wide receiver out of Illinois. Now this, I don't know if this came out, but a little bit of news. Some big fanboy news for me here at the Hat and Beard Show. The Lions did make a re-signing this weekend, and that was my boy Fireball Tim Patrick. Tim Patrick's going to be sticking around for a little bit longer. And I know he's not flashy, but man, has that guy been through it, and boy, does he just fit our everything we're trying to do here. Fireball Tim Patrick sticking around. I love that re-signing. But here we go. Pat Bryant. How many times have I mocked Bryant to the Lions? When I went to get this picture, I typed in P, and the autofill filled out his name, so this guy's very high on Paul Bryant. Pat Bryant. The reason is the same. The guy is the exact type of receiver the Lions need. He's the type of player they love, a guy who loves to block, maybe more than he loves getting the ball. Okay. Yes, that sold me right there. That line. A guy who loves to block maybe more than he loves getting the ball. Sign me up. I'm sold. Sign me up. All right, 196, Jackson Hawes, tight end out of Georgia Tech, going back to Georgia Tech, where we have had some very good success with some former alums that went to Georgia Tech and ended up playing for the Detroit Lions, both with the first guy who jumps out into your mind, obviously Hall of Famer Calvin Johnson, but also Jahmyr Gibbs went to Georgia Tech before transferring to Alabama. While the Lions did just sign Kenny Yeboah, that's right, we did sign that tight end from the Jets, they still don't have what Hawes can bring to the table, and that's really good run blocking. Hawes can straight up knock guys on their butts when he wants to. At the combine, he talked about wanting to punish people on the field and how that was his main goal. Sounds like a certain tight end turned head coach. Yes, that is very Dan Campbell-esque. We do need a tight end. Obviously, Brock Wright isn't getting any younger. We've seen a need for another tight end when Sam Laporta missed some time with various ailments. The production at the position wasn't there, though. When Laporta was on the field and targeted, he was productive. Do I think the Lions go tight end in the draft? Probably not. Namely because we got Brock Wright, Shane Zylstra, James Mitchell. We have a lot of guys still on roster. They already have NFL pedigree and NFL exposure. They know the speed of the game. However, if you're talking rounds 5 and 6, and there is a guy who you graded out at a 4th round grade, right, who has everything you want in a player, then there is absolutely no shame in going and taking a luxury pick like this. Right? These are picks now we're starting to get. We're trading picks. We got some compensatory picks for Aaron Glenn. These are now when you can take these chances, right? Because we are not drafting from a position of need to correct the franchise. We are drafting from a position of need to add to a successful franchise. Does that make sense? I'm not necessarily mad at it. 228, we're getting out into the weeds. Donnell Fortune, cornerback out of South Carolina. The Lions cornerback room is looking good in 2025 with DJ Reed, Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, and Enos Rakestraw Jr. But they could use a solid depth guy. Fortune fits that role, as this guy could also find himself a bigger role after some development time. Yes, that is a super role player. Am I mad at it? Hell no, I'm not mad at it. We need bodies in the defensive backfield. That was proven last year. I don't want to go too early unless there's a guy who jumps off the board, but we're talking, let's see, we get down here after round 2. Obviously, rounds 1, there is some need, franchise changing need. No, some need a defensive end. Yes, I would love to see our first pick go defensive end, maybe even an explosive defensive tackle or offensive guard if there's a guy who's just jumping off the board at you. But I again, Chris Pooh Paul, I like the player, not necessarily the pick. Jonas Spanker, the Sanker Spanker safety out of Virginia. I do like that. Again, at the spot, once we get past the 3rd round into the 400s, or into the 4th round, into the hundreds, and the triple-digit picks, I like these depth players. I really now just getting sold on this Pat Bryant guy, the guy who loves to block, maybe when he loves getting the ball. Jackson Hawes, yeah, I'm starting to come around on it. Just thinking, once you start to really think about it, you can't just take things at the surface level. You actually got to just allocate like maybe 3 fucking brain cells as to what could be going on here. Analyze a little bit, and yeah, that does kind of make sense, doesn't it? Doesn't it kind of make sense a little bit when you look at what's going on? And I guess Donnell Fortune, yeah, I'm not necessarily mad at it. Defensive back is one of those positions that kind of slides around up and down the draft board as the draft goes on. Post third round, teams start getting kind of wonky and silly with it, going after guys that they've fallen in love with, right? And defensive back is something we could use a little bit of support for. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for today. I appreciate you sticking around. No Better Man segment today. I do appreciate you, though, hanging out with me. We got a little bit of work to do. We're going to be cutting it. Hey, look at that time. 10:45. Starting to get this timing done down and right. I got to get ready to go to work. Got to go in a little early, which means a little bit earlier out. But, hey, tomorrow we will be back at it. We might do a little bit longer of a show, but tomorrow's supposed to be in the mid-60s, and I got some yard work to do. So, boys and girls, cats and dogs, I appreciate you all sticking around, hanging out with me today. It's been a wonderful start to our Monday morning. Hopefully you guys have a good rest of your day. Stay out of trouble. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. You know, I've been Hat and Beard. You've been an attentive audience. So, bonga bonga. Frig off.